Hi friends, my name is Kim and I am an alcoholic. So good to be here and so good to be sober. I didn't prepare anything. I like to just speak from the heart. First, I'd like to welcome Judith to beautiful British Columbia. I had a chance to chat with her outside and she's lovely. Looking forward to seeing her later today. So how it was for me. So I grew up in Nova Scotia to a very good home. I grew up in an upper middle class family. My dad was high-ranking with the Navy, so alcohol was common in the home, but it was more cultural than alcoholic. I never thought that anyone in our family had a problem with alcohol, and my parents ended up getting divorced when I was about 11 years old. After that divorce, my mom remarried and we moved to BC, and that's kind of where my journey began. Moving across the country at such a young age, I felt disassociated. I felt I didn't know anyone, and I felt very isolated and alone. I didn't fit in at school because obviously everyone in school had already known each other for so long, and I felt like a loner. I never really felt like I fit in, and that was kind of the story of my life, and I was always looking for an outlet to fit in. So, whether it was with a new crowd of friends or with a new boyfriend, I always assimilated to them. So I would become what I was hanging around, like a chameleon. I drank for the first time at about 16 at a party, and I drank alcoholically from the start. That first night I did blackout. The only thing I remember was someone saying, take 2 Advil and a glass of water before you go to bed and you'll be fine. And I wasn't fine the next day. And that was kind of the story of my drinking. I would black out every time I drank, and it got so bad that I would actually delete the history on my phone so that sober Kim didn't know what drunk Kim had done the night before. I never really felt I had an identity. I went from being Richard and Lillian's daughter to being so-and-so's girlfriend, so-and-so's friend, eventually so-and-so's wife and so-and-so's mother. I never really felt like I was just Kim. When I turned 18, I started hanging out with some more adult friends because I felt that that would make me a grown-up, and I felt I could find myself by hanging out with other people. And I found myself going down the wrong path in life. I was making choices that were very bad and getting involved with people who were very rough around the edges, and that kind of became my identity. I was that party girl that just kind of floated around, but when I was outside the party, I was by myself. I just had no one. There was no friends during the day. There was no girls to hang out with on the weekend. The only time I had people around was when I was drinking. I ended up meeting Prince Charming at a party, and I got married and had 2 beautiful children, thinking that that would make me normal, and I became the perfect little housewife. The problem was our perfect little life wasn't so perfect behind closed doors. There was a lot of problems with drug and alcohol, and that progressed as the years went by. Nothing seemed to fix our problems, and it went from being weekend warriors to all-night drinkers, and eventually the party never stopped for my ex-husband. It got to the point where domestic violence became rampant in our home, and I was in a situation that was very dire for a very long time. And it came to the point where one day my son was emulating his father's behavior, and I knew it had to stop. So I got the courage one night in the middle of the night to leave, and that's kind of where my change began and my story into AA began. I was always seeking for something outside of me to fix me. I was looking for the next guy to love me because I didn't love myself. I was looking to lose weight because that would make me happy. But nothing seemed to fill the void except for drugs and alcohol. I thought once I get divorced, I won't need to drink because I'm out of that situation. I thought once my life settles down, I won't need to drink because I'm out of that situation. But the excuses kept coming to drink. I only see my kids 50% of the time. So the other 50% of the time, I don't know who I am because I'm not a wife or a mother. So I'm going to fill that void with drugs and alcohol. And then it was, oh, well, I'm a single mom now, and I need to work full time, and I'm stressed out, so I deserve this bottle of wine, which turned into a box of wine, which turned into getting my teenage daughter's boyfriend to drive me to the liquor store because I couldn't drive myself. But I never thought this behavior was abnormal. I just made excuses for it and justified it. I started dating someone who was sober because I thought that was a great solution. I could have a bad guy, but he was sober, so he's reformed, so that's going to solve my problems, because my problem isn't my drinking, it's that I keep hanging out with people that have problems. So I need to find someone who doesn't have a problem, and then my problems will go away. It was a really great idea, except I knew nothing about recovery. My ex-husband had been court-ordered into Alcoholics Anonymous, and my former sister-in-law had been in Alcoholics Anonymous for years, and they both still drank. So I didn't think this program worked. And what I didn't know were the signs of relapse. So the person I was dating was very, very close to relapsing. And I was one of the biggest signs of that he was dating someone who drank and used. So he relapsed, and there went my solution. But lucky for me, God had a plan, and his plan was for me to support my boyfriend through recovery. And what God's plan actually was to bring me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. So like the good codependent girlfriend I was, I would go to meetings with him because that was the only way I could see him when he was in treatment. And after about the third meeting where I was like, I'm not like these people, these aren't my crew, I heard a woman tell my story. I had actually recognized her from a party I had been at years before, and I knew her name, and when she said her name, I was like, I knew it. I knew that was her. And she told my story. And I was like, how dare she be up there talking about me like that? Funny enough, it was like a bus crash had happened in the movies where your whole life flashes before my eyes. And suddenly everything I had heard at those 3 meetings made sense to me. And I realized I was an alcoholic. So lucky for me, I stayed in the rooms. Unfortunately, I didn't do any of the work. So with my first 14 months in recovery, all I did was sit in a chair. I would show up to my home group every Wednesday night. I would fill a chair. I would stay sober until the next Wednesday night, and I was great. I was sober. This was wonderful. I heard all of the things you suggested. I had a temporary sponsor, and in my first 14 months, I called her twice. I went to a step group twice, and then I had a car accident, so I couldn't continue. I didn't have a big book the first 14 months of Alcoholics Anonymous. I do not recommend that. But lucky I had been listening. So what happened was, on my 1-year sobriety date, I was disconnected from the rooms, and my really great friends decided that they should take me to Palm Springs for a reset party because I had stayed sober a year for my boyfriend. That was their perception. So in my mind, that was a great idea. Yeah, we'll go down to Palm Springs, we'll have a reset weekend, we'll come back, I'm a good girlfriend. And what happened was, I got to Palm Springs and I realized I really liked sobriety, and I really liked how my life was. What I didn't know is, while I was gone, my partner reset his sobriety, and unfortunately, he's still out today. And that was 21 months ago. When I got back, my life looked a lot differently, and I contemplated going out. But luckily, one of the girls from the trip talked to me in my car, and I said, that's it, like I've had it, I've stayed sober this long, and this isn't worth it. And she reminded me why my life was so good and what could be. So I called one of the only people I knew in Alcoholics Anonymous and went to a meeting, and I heard in that meeting the message of filling your toolbox with the tools you need. And I decided that that's what I needed to do. And that was my 2nd year of sobriety, was filling my spiritual toolbox, finding a connection, doing a step group, getting a big book, which I owed an amends for because when I moved out, I stole his big book because he wasn't using it anyways. I now buy big books for other alcoholics when they don't have one to make that amends daily. But that big book has brought me a heightened sobriety and has helped a lot of women. And I took this program seriously, and I'm so grateful that I sat next to some women and I broke down into tears and I said, I need to do this work. Will you help me? And they took me under their wings, and I got this program. And on my second year of sobriety, I actually took my cake and celebrated my sobriety. And 2 months later, my ex-husband passed away from his addiction. And lucky for me, I had done all of the work I had done in the year prior. So I had a humongous support network of people to rely upon who were there for me at 5 a.m. When I had to call my children and tell them that their dad had passed away. And luckily, I was able to explain it in a loving way to not pass guilt to them. Because a lot of the times we can pass guilt to our children and they can feel like things that aren't their fault are their fault. And it took me down a path of really helping others. I shared vulnerably about the struggles I had had, and it took my personal growth to a whole nother level, where I now work with a lot of other women who are going through the same struggles that I am with, former history of domestic violence and addiction. And my life has changed immensely because of this program. And my connection with God is the reason that I can do anything today. Had those women not taken me through the steps and read with me that big book, I would be a pile on the floor and not a strong, independent leader in the community who can stand in front of scores of people at conferences speaking about addiction and domestic violence and inspire others that they can make these changes too. And I am blessed that when turmoils come up, God works in my life and I can see his plan for me. I can see how this program works when you work it, in that God always has your back, and he puts things in front of you to keep you from looking at the things that are behind you. I had a huge court battle last week, and because of this program and the way I work with so many people, my phone is always ringing and I'm always connected with other people, which keeps me out of myself. Because when I'm in myself, I'm focusing on my problems, and my problems look so much bigger. But when I'm not sitting in myself, I'm able to just go through the motions and conquer anything that's put in my path. My lawyer was busy on Thursday, so I had to attend Supreme Court by myself and represent myself, which, if you've never done it, is quite intimidating. And I was able to do it and win without being afraid. I have no fear of the outcome because I know I have someone watching over me who's going to protect me and make sure that the right outcome always happens. And he just, I can't even tell you. It's magical. I am not overcome by my life. My life is my life and I can live it. Whereas life used to happen to me. You hear about repeat offenders. I was a repeat victim my entire life. And now I am an active participant in life. And it is absolutely amazing. Sometimes it's overwhelming. I work with a lot of women and I sponsor quite a few women. But these women keep me alive. And this program keeps me alive. And I read this book, and every time I read this book, there's something new in it. And that's the marking of an amazing book, is every time you read it, it changes. And that means you're always growing and evolving. And that is the wonder of this program. It is designed to keep you moving forward and keep you growing as you grow through life. Because face it, if we're not growing, we're dying. It's like a flower or a plant. If you don't water it, it withers and it dies. So I keep watering my sobriety by working with others and by saying yes every time the opportunity comes up. My biggest pet peeve is people who say no to share at meetings, because the primary purpose of an alcoholic is to pass the message to another alcoholic. That is the primary purpose of why we're here. So if I say no, I'm not fulfilling my primary purpose to this program. So anytime the opportunity arises, if I can say yes, I do. I stand up and I show up. If my phone rings, I answer it. Because when I need that phone to be answered, I hope that someone shows up for me and answers their phone. And that's the beauty of this program. And you know, the only requirement for membership is a desire to quit drinking. And had I not heard that my first meeting, I would not be here today. I'm coming up on 3 years sober, God willing, in 2 months. Thank you. And I didn't even get through 3 pregnancies sober. I had an OBGYN actually say, well, you know, the Greeks used to drink wine with dinner, and I was like, you just signed a permission slip for me to drink during a pregnancy, thank you. And I don't need to drink today. There is not a problem that I can't face, and there's nothing that God doesn't put in my way that I can't deal with, or that I know someone that can help me deal with it. And that is the beauty of this program. And so if you're new, which I don't know if anyone's new because we didn't ask, grab yourself a big book and grab someone to take you through it and really get looped in, because there are amazing people in these rooms, and no matter where you go, you can find this solution. And I thank you all for inviting me to share today, and I hope you all have an awesome day.
Thanks, Kimmy. That's awesome. Next, is there anybody new? Anybody new here today? Anybody coming back? We're good. Okay, our next speaker is Mike J. He's from Abbotsford, and his home group is Sunday Night Serenity.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Mike. First and foremost, I'd like to start off. I was just talking with Clifford outside, and we were talking about, and our lovely CPC chair from the BC Yukon, who's graced us with her presence, which is valuable for me, because I'd like to talk with her after. And where I was telling her, it was just my birthday. I just turned 39, and I'm feeling very, very old. I know, right? But I come here, and I'm one of the early bird speakers, so we know who's all here. So now I feel much better about myself. So I'd like to thank all of you for making me feel that way. So thank you. Anyways, we're here at Alcoholics Anonymous, so it's about, I guess, the Alcoholics Anonymous, alcohol. So Alcoholics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous was brought to my attention that I was probably an alcoholic long before I picked up a drink. And I believe that to be very true. And I think of a couple examples. For example, when I was probably, from my understanding, what I've been told and from my recollection, when I was about 4 years old, I used to bite things. And this biting included people, mostly cousins. And they didn't like this very much. But every time I was irritable, restless, and discontent, and I was anxious or anything, I would chew on stuff, whether that was my toys or my cousins, who I lived with at the time. And this happened on a regular basis, quite a lot actually. But one day, my uncle was pissed off, and rightfully so. He came to me, and I believed every word of what I'm about to tell you that he said. He said, Mike, and he grabbed a pair of pliers, and he went down to me, and he said, if you chew on Nikki or Craig anymore, I am going to take each one of these teeth out. Now, I'm 4 years old. I believed every word of what my uncle said, and I stopped chewing. Even though I did a lot, I stopped chewing on them. So that would make me a hard biter, but not yet a biteaholic, right? Because the consequences, right? The consequences were sufficient enough for me to stop at that time, for that being my solution. But this didn't change, right? Because later on, my alcoholism really started to take cover. I was, those consequences stopped me, but for the next thing that I used as a solution for my alcoholism, whenever I got irritable, restless, and discontent, was cheese. I love cheese, good cheese, right? Cheese. Every time I was feeling sick and scared or fearful or anxious, I'd reach for that brick of cheese, I'd eat that cheese, and I'd feel relaxed. I'd get an ease and comfort from that cheese. Now there's a problem with eating cheese. I had a physical reaction to eating cheese. I'd get crampy, right? I'd get bungled up, right? And then that would equal pain. And it got progressively worse the more cheese I ate. Now, I ate this cheese on a daily basis, almost. And I have that alcoholic brain that they talk about, that forgetfulness. The disease of alcoholism, we forget we have a disease and we forget the pain of yesterday, right? So over this course of time, I'm getting cramps. It's extremely painful. I'm starting to recognize that eating cheese equals pain. And I would tell myself after this pain and going through this bout, there's no more cheese for me, right? Like I know, but somehow the next day, I'd forgotten about that pain. I'm restless, I'm irritable and discontent, and I'm anxious, and I reach for cheese again. Now this kind of habitual solution for me got so bad that I kid you not, I went to the hospital on 2 different occasions as a child, and they believed to be appendicitis. Because where I was getting the cramping was right where you get appendicitis. And there's no way in hell that this kid's pain is from cheese. But yes, it was cheese, once again, that brought me to the hospital. Now you would think that I would understand at this point in time that cheese equals pain. I don't want to do that anymore. I must surrender to cheese. Obviously, that didn't happen. So my mom took all the cheese out. She got rid of all the cheese in the house, and I was upset. I was livid, and now I'm anxious without my solution. So I negotiated with my mom. I said, Mom, what about Havarti? What about Swiss? Right? This was cheddar that was doing that for me. And so I got my way. But once again, the definition of insanity is in step 2, doing the same thing over and over again. It didn't work. I still got bungled up. Havarti did the same to me that cheddar did, same with all the other cheeses. Now I went through a vicious cheese cycle. But what happened is that changed, right? I switched addictions. I found alcohol, right? And alcohol could do for me what cheese could not, right? That's pretty dramatic stuff. I am switching for sure. You know, cheese, you can take a back seat. This is the stuff that makes me handsome, right? I'm better looking, I'm charismatic, I'm funny, and most importantly, I'm getting laid now. Now that's great stuff, right? For an adolescent young man like myself, that's the key, that's the goal. And alcohol is my savior. It's making me everything I wanted to be. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what time I'm at. I can go on forever. You guys don't want to hear me go on forever. Okay, so I drank alcohol so much so, like, I'll give you an example of my earlier alcoholism. I was 19, maybe 20, and yet graduated to the straight hard booze thing, and I had an affinity for vodka and orange juice. I loved vodka and orange juice. It was fantastic. It was refreshing, right? I could feel it coming into my body, and I felt all tingly, and I was happy. And I remember one night, it was a really bad night, and I was hugging the toilet bowl. You know, one of those ones where you're like, oh my God, right? And at the time I had hair. I don't have it anymore, but it was all in my hair, and it was all over the ground, and it's all over my body, and I'm hugging it, and I'm promising myself, I'm never drinking this disgusting stuff again. Never drinking this foul liquid. It's the source of all this pain that I'm experiencing, this tremendous pain I'm experiencing. I can't have it no more, right? And I mean it. Every fiber of my body, I meant every word of it. I'm never drinking this stuff again. This was too much. This was it. So I never drank orange juice again for like 3 years, right? And that's a true story. That's a true story. The smell, right? Oh, God, I still think about it. I still get the heebie-jeebies from orange juice every now and then. Now, that progressed, obviously. And so I came in Alcoholics Anonymous, and just prior to me coming into Alcoholics Anonymous, my last day before my sobriety is where I'll tell you a story about where the extent of my alcoholism brought me to. I woke up, it was April 30th, 2015. Like it was any other day. I wiped the chip crumbs and the bread crumbs off my back. I got up off a mattress that hadn't had a sheet on it for probably a year. I surveyed the landscape of where I was staying, and all I could see was garbage, filth, disgust, everywhere. And I'm not even kidding, in some places it was like 2 feet high. If you want to picture this, The only floor space that you could see where I was residing was trails, foot trails, to what you could call a bathroom that had a toilet that didn't work for months, or foot trails to the door, like little shuffle trails. And the rest was filth, disgust, empties upon empties upon empties, and stink, and mouse droppings, and all of that stuff. And I remember that day, it was like, this is the same thing I woke up to every day. I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, how can I do this? They always talk about you have a moment of clarity. I had a moment of clarity every time I woke up sober. Right? Every time I woke up sober, I had dread. I feared for the day. I couldn't imagine my life. I was sick. I was twisted in my thinking and my feelings, and my body was aching. And I didn't think I could go on any longer. And so the way I came in was, you can't do this to yourself anymore. You got to end it. Now, this is common thinking. This is daily thinking at this point in my life. You've got to end it. There is absolutely no hope. I love what it says in the big book. A state of incomprehensible demoralization. Like, that sums it up. Doesn't that? Sums it up. Incomprehensible. Like, it was incomprehensible, the state that I was living. I was a talented young man. I had dreams and I had goals and I had opportunities, and now I'm living in filth and disgust, and I want to kill myself. So I did what I did every morning. I got down on my hands and my knees, and I began to rip through the empties, looking for anything and everything to take this pain away. Any empties I could find. And I've done this time after time after time, ripping through the bags. And this time I got lucky. And I kid you not, and this is where the extent of my alcoholism gone. And I'm sure if some of you here have probably been right at this point as well. And I got lucky. I'd found this beer. It was just cracked, nearly full. The problem was, it's probably been about 3 weeks old, and it had a cigarette butt in it. Now, I saw that, and I said, Mike, you are not that bad. You are not that bad, absolutely not. So in my alcoholic haze, I just went back down to what seemed and appeared to be a normal, everyday thing, and ripped through more garbage looking for stuff. And that seemed, at this point in time for me, quite a reasonable thing to do. But not the butt beer. So I continued going through. But now that gnawingness, that hatred of myself, that self-loathing is getting so ingrained into me that butt beer is starting to feel like it might be the solution. Now, I need to come up, and I'm an alcoholic, so I'm quite creative. I'm sure all of you are as well in these states. I need to find a way that I can make this tolerable so that I can make this acceptable for me. I found a sifter. Now, isn't that genius, right? A sifter. And I proceeded to sift that butt beer through a sifter into a glass that probably hadn't been washed in 6 months, but nonetheless, it wasn't a butt beer. I sat back, and at this point in time, I wanted to kill myself. I couldn't even think about living this way anymore. I needed to die. I couldn't imagine even living till the next day. And then I sat down and I drank this butt beer, and all of a sudden I thought, maybe you overreacted. Right? Maybe it's not so bad. Because what happened was, is all of a sudden, within even just that beer, just that taste, even though it was disgusting as it was, I felt better again. My life wasn't so bleak. Right? And I sat back in that filth and on that bed, and I thought to myself, I'll go to recovery another day. Today is going to be okay. And then 20 minutes later, we went through the same cycle again. It's not all bad news now, right? I'm just over 4 years sober. I got sober May 1st, 2015, so I'm just a little over 4 years. And my life has drastically changed. I really don't know how much time I got here. Okay. So, we'll go with this. So just 2 years ago, a miracle happened for me. An AA miracle. We always talk about we have miracles all the time. Well, this one, I hope you guys are all sitting. Please, you in the back that just came, you got to sit for this. I'm just about to tell you about a miracle. An AA miracle. All right. I got my damage deposit back when I moved. Thank you. Right? Is that not fantastic stuff? My damage deposit back, that's never happened, ever. We talk about miracles, that's one of the biggest of all time. Anyways, I'd like to tell you about a day I had at my place a little while ago, and I think it sums up how my life is as a result now of Alcoholics Anonymous, and how I go about my day-to-day as a result of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, the program and the fellowship. So I woke up one day in my fridge. I came out of my room, and my fridge was on the fritz. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? So it dawned on me. Now, most normal people would do what I'm about to do, but as you guys would understand, this was not something that comes naturally to me. So what I did was crazier than the miracle itself. I called my landlord and I said, can you come down to my house and fix the fridge? Woo! These are celebrations, folks. These are celebrations. Now, I just told you that I was living in disgust and filth where there's no treasure trails and I want to kill myself. And only in 2 short years, I'm calling landlords to come down to my house and check out my fridge. And he said, I can't come down there. And I was like, oh, all right, I want it done now. I'm still an alcoholic, like, let's be real. I have plans, though. I have to leave. So get this. This craziness just continues. You'll hear it. So this is what I told him. I said, why don't you let yourself in while I'm gone? Whoa, right? Whoa, this is crazy stuff. This is crazy stuff. Now, how can I do this? How is this possible? Well, in step 1, I had to surrender. And when I surrendered to my alcoholism, when I surrendered to the fact that I can never drink freely on my own will ever again, my whole world freed up. All sorts of possibilities. I stopped fighting, I stopped resisting, and I caved in. And now I got all sorts of time to clean up and to take care of my stuff, right? Wonderful thing, these steps. I was able to clear away the wreckage of my past. I'm no longer hampered down by that wreckage, right? I cleared that in my 4 and 5, my 7, 8, my 9. Right? I live free today. Free enough that I can have landlords come in while I'm not even there. Now the fun doesn't stop, folks. I go outside, I go to my car, and in my car, I see a flat tire. Now, normally, I would have already been overwhelmed at the fridge. All right? This is 8 in the morning, for crying out loud. That would have taken me months to get to that point, but not today, not because of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I go, and this is great. Jeez, you guys haven't even, like, you guys just sit, right? Okay, because I went to the back of my trunk in my car where I had a flat tire on a car that I have because of Alcoholics Anonymous, by the way, because I didn't have a license for 12 years. And I owed $126,000 at certain points throughout my drinking sprees towards ICBC. And I went to the back of my trunk and I grabbed up this thing that jump starts cars and pumps up tires. Now that's crazy stuff. So I proceeded to pump up my tire on this car that I have because of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I surrendered to the disease of alcoholism and I accepted that I was powerless over this disease. And I proceeded to pump up this tire on my car that I got because of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps and the fellowship and good sponsorship. I proceeded to get into my car on that pumped up tire, in that car with the license that I now have because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is 8 o'clock in the morning. It's crazy. And I proceeded to drive to the tire shop, right? Isn't that bizarre? Because why is that possible? Because I have money in the bank, for crying out loud. This is all newfound fun stuff for me. Money in the bank, and I didn't have to worry. I had extra, crazy stuff. So I'm driving in my car with my license on a pumped up tire that I have because of Alcoholics Anonymous to the tire shop where I'm proceeding to get a tire put on my car. It's now 9 a.m. I still have a full day ahead of me. So I hopped in that car with my license that I have on a brand new tire that I have because of Alcoholics Anonymous. and I proceeded to drive to university. Crazy, right? I didn't finish high school. I'm in my third year of university. I'm just finishing my third year. I'm getting my bachelor's degree, hopefully, in social work. I proceeded to drive there and go about and do that. After I was done at school, that was done about 1:50. I went to my job. My job! I hadn't had a job in like 10 years. To my job, where I have the opportunity to work with kids who have mental health crises, who are in the foster care system, who are in the criminal justice system, who have any number of mental illnesses, and I got to go and live with them and help them build new lives. So I got a pretty good thing as a result of Alcoholics Anonymous. Right? I got a fantastic life that 4 years ago was never even dreamed of. All those are wonderful things. All of them are wonderful things that I got as a result from Alcoholics Anonymous. But the thing I got most from Alcoholics Anonymous, that's better and trumps, and I don't like the word Trump, sorry, I don't know where you swing. The thing that trumps all of this is I got direction now in my life. I have meaning in my life, and I have purpose. And that was all shown to me through Alcoholics Anonymous. Those three things I didn't have any of in my entire 35 years prior to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what I was missing, a higher power to offer me direction, meaning, and purpose. My purpose is very simple. It's the primary purpose of Alcoholics Anonymous. Anything above and anything that is just a bonus. Today my life is wonderful. Today I have fantastic friends. Today I got to come here and speak and share with all of you. Today I feel better that I'm only 39. Thank you once again for all of that. Right? Well, hopefully I'll come back at 40 and you guys will do the same thing for me again. Thank you.